Today I want to talk about the decisions we make and why we make them. More specifically, the actions that many of us take daily that have direct consequences to the many non-human animals of the world. To start, I'm going to say that I am not going to give you a long speech on the facts of the animal industry. What I am going to do is ask you the question of why you're not vegan and show you the reasons why there are no good excuses to consume animal products. Most of you probably eat meat, dairy, eggs, fish, etc., and do so quite regularly. You likely know what happens in factory farms. You may have even seen statistics on the enormous environmental impacts of livestock, with it causing between 18 to 51% of greenhouse gas emissions, 60 to 91% of Amazon deforestation, and using the vast majority of the world's agricultural land. You've probably heard about studies of the health of vegans and other plant-based eaters, living 7 to 9 years longer with significantly reduced risk of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, etc. Despite this, however, 99% of people still use animal products in some way, and most of these people rarely, if ever, question their actions seriously. Today, I will be looking at why most people, probably including you, still use animal products, and trying to make the case for there being no reasonable excuses for you to continue to use them. Like most people, when you see some sort of animal product when it is packaged and processed, you probably first think of it as food. Even if you have seen factory farm footage and remember it well, animals are probably not the first thing that come to mind when you see a carton of milk or a steak. You see food and nothing more. This disconnect we have between livestock and their products is something that we purposely push out of our minds to avoid facing what we know is true. You see, people know what's wrong with their choices. More than ever, in major part because of the internet, people have seen footage of animal abuse and realize in some way what's wrong. The problem is that most people don't think about it much and don't get an emotional reaction from it for very long. It's often because of the excuses we make to ourselves and others to justify our own actions, making ourselves feel better about them. There are many justifications people will make for their consumption of animal products. One very common thing people will say as an excuse to eat animal products, and the primary one that I will be focusing on today, is that what they are doing is fine because they are buying ethical animal products or that animal welfare laws protect animals enough that they could be considered ethical. People who buy these kind of products may have good intentions, but there are several major problems with these so-called ethical products. Firstly, putting the word cage-free or free-range on a carton of eggs means very little for the chickens who are in the farming process. Baby chickens who are born male are still killed hours after birth, just like in factory farms, and there's little difference between living in a tiny cage and a highly overcrowded barn. Also, the term free-range doesn't specify how long chickens are allowed outdoors or the quality of the environment they have outdoors. Furthermore, the term free-range has been known to be misused by companies because of the lack of solid regulation around it. The next major problem with ethical animal products is the slaughter process. Whether you're a free-range, ethically raised, non-GMO, no hormones or steroids pig, or a regular factory farm pig living in a gestation crate, the end is still the same. Whether that be a gas chamber, a slit throat, a bolt through the head, or an electric shock. This can be especially troubling for ovo-lacto vegetarians, as they themselves are paying for this with their own money. This is especially true when talking about the dairy industry, as in almost all cases, male calves are killed early in their childhoods. As for female calves, they'll be killed 4 or 5 years later when they can no longer produce milk. Note that non-farmed cattle can live for about 20 years on average. Another thing that should be mentioned when talking about humane animal products is welfare regulations. Many people have this sort of idea that animals are treated well and humanely because of welfare laws. Despite this, however, almost all of the time these regulations do barely anything for animals and take enormous amounts of time to implement. For example, one piece of somewhat recent animal welfare regulation that got quite a bit of press was the EU banning of battery cages. This may seem like good at first, but when you look more into the legislation, you see that before it was passed, chickens had 550 square centimeters of usable cage space, and after it was implemented, they had a cage with 600 square centimeters of usable space. Also, the farms were given a full 13 years between 1999 and 2012 to actually switch out the cages. This makes them a bit unimpressive, with chickens getting only an extra 50 square centimeters of space over the course of 13 years. Despite this, however, many animal welfare groups and news outlets acted like this was a great step forward and phased it as the banning of battery cages, rather than the replacement of battery cages with what are called enriched battery cages. This also may have helped increase the consumption of eggs in the EU also, which has been slowly increasing for decades now. And even if you were to eat a fully, completely grass-fed, 100% milk and beef, the problems with environmental impacts don't get much better. In fact, they get quite a bit worse. Because of how much grass is required to feed animals grass-fed diets, the CO2 equivalent of grass-fed animals' emissions is over 60% more than factory farmed animals on average. Finally, we need to realize that no matter how ethically an animal is treated during their lifetime, they are still a slave to humans if they are used for their products. We have a major disconnect between the people around us and the animals we eat. We know how intellectually gifted us humans may be, and the intelligence factor is one that's often brought up in debates about how we should treat animals. And though there are many studies on the intelligence of livestock, including things like pigs on average being slightly smarter than the average 3-year-old, in the end, these results don't matter much when it comes to discussion and morality. To say a quote, the question is not can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? Think about it. We generally don't kill people who are significantly less intelligent than us or have severe intellectual disabilities. This expands beyond just intelligence also. I'd like to bring up the name the trait argument. The question posed is to name a trait that is present in non-human animals, especially livestock, that if it were to be present in humans would warrant putting them into slavery. Whether that be intelligence, looking much different than at most, living in a different way, or being unable to talk, etc. The fact is that we would not do such things to other humans with these traits, and doing so is generally very illegal in modern society. We need to realize that the granting of personhood to someone is not a matter of their intelligence, nor of their physical similarities to us or their ability to communicate, but their ability to suffer and feel pain. This is the trait that nearly all animals share, and this is what separates the members of the animal kingdom from plants and bacteria. The fact that animals can feel pain should be reason enough to grant them personhood. This should be a very radical idea. After all, many of us strive to treat humans this way. We try not to harm others simply because of their intelligence or perceived inferiority, and we punish those who do so in our legal systems. There's one thing you're going to remember about this talk, make it be that idea. So what's holding people back from veganism? The most obvious factors are societal addiction to animal products. We grow up eating them, they're everywhere we go, and they take up most of the food advertising we see. Simply the idea that there are a somewhat significant amount of people who don't eat animal products is something that doesn't cross the minds of most people as a concept until well into their childhood. And how often do you ask questions to yourselves, like why do we keep some animals and pets and others as inhuman objects? Probably not very often, and that is telling of our collective ignorance on the issue. Despite this, in our modern society, eating animal products is so ingrained in our culture that it is a given in most contexts, and not eating animal products is considered a fringe or even radical ideology. First of all, we need to realize that an omnivorous diet is also an ideology, like veganism, and not a given. This ideology, sometimes called carnism, is the one that most of us are born into. Though going vegan may seem like a major decision, it should be noted that eating and using animal products is an ideology like veganism that has direct actions associated with it. Next, we need to stop pretending that truly ethical animal products exist. We accept that murder and enslavement are wrong no matter how humane they seem to be. Slavery is still slavery no matter how nicely slaves are treated, and it is still wrong to kill someone no matter how painless it is. Finally, we need to stop thinking of ethics as an issue of intelligence or similarity to us. Say the quote again. The question is not, can they reason, nor can they talk, but can they suffer? And after all, no matter who you are, how intelligent you are, or even what species you are, nobody wants to suffer. Thank you.